possibility that you look at me differently, Lord. Ever since the first moment I spoke your name, from then on I knew that by you being in my life, things were destined to change. Good Lord, so many people use your name in vain. Lord, those who have faith in you sometimes go astray. Lord, through all the ups and downs, the joys and curves, Lord, for better or worse, I still will choose you first. Many nights I've longed for you, wanting you, searching for the chance to get to know you, longing for your love, for your words, for your blessings. Many nights I've cried from the things I do, felt like I could die from the thought of losing you. I know that you're real, with no doubts and no fears and no questions. Yeah, oh, so many people did you vain, Lord. But those who have faith in you sometimes go astray, Lord. Through all the ups and downs, the joys and hurts, Lord, for better or worse, I still will choose you first. At first you didn't mean that much to me. Now I know you're all I need and more. The world looks so brand new to me. Now that I trust Jesus, every day I live for you. Everything that I do it for you. What I say, I feel, so believe it's true. You got to know I'm true. Oh, yes they do, yeah. Lord, yeah. But those who have faith in you sometimes go astray. They go astray. Lord, through all the ups and downs, the joys and hurts, Lord, for better or worse, I still will choose you first. Oh my Lord, so many people they use your name in vain, Lord. But those who have faith in you sometimes go astray. Yes, they do, yeah. Through all the ups and downs, the joys and hurts, love, Lord, for better or worse, I still will choose you first. Love, so many people use your name in vain, Lord.
I snuck over here and tried to sing his style of music. I don't have enough soul. Had a request to do this.
is dead. His way to victory. I'm gonna see the light's glory, and I know He reigns because He lives. I can face tomorrow because He lives. All my fears they're gone because I know He holds the future, and life is worth the living just because He lives. And life is worth the living just because He lives.
I had a fellow this morning, when he left out of church, he said, Brother Glenn said, "Do you have a water hose?" I said, "Yes, I sure do. It's over to the house, hooked up." I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "You have burned the socks off of me. I need something to put my feet out." I've heard a lot of things, but I've never heard that before. He said he told one of the guys he had talked to this week, he said, "Now, if you want your ears tickled," said, "just go on down the road," and said, "you get your ears tickled." But said, "if you want the Word and you want it preached with power and strength, said, come on to Grace Valley." And I took that as a very good compliment, not for me, but because of you and what the church stands for. There are a lot of churches that you couldn't go in and preach. You get run off. You know what I'm talking about? I've almost been asked to leave before from some places. I preached in Paragould, Arkansas. Almost said what church. Pastor, he sat up in the balcony by himself. He didn't like what I sang. Isn't that wonderful? And I thought, I'm not the first. That's the way they treated Jesus, and Peter, Paul, James, and John. So it ain't no big deal. We ought to be happy when people don't like what we're saying. Right? Right. So turn your Bibles to the book of Genesis, 20th chapter, starting at the first verse. And I thought we'd go to the end of Genesis tonight, but it's just too much to cover. And I can't talk that fast. When I preach along this morning, I don't think you can take a double dose. You might kick it to traces. 20th chapter of Genesis. We're not going to read the text. We've just got a lot of stories to tell. We will see the plan of God from where He started with Abraham. He told him that He would make him a father of a great nation. And we're going to see what God does from Abraham all the way up to Joseph. We won't get into that part tonight. But all the way up to Joseph and through the end of his life, where that Israel was in the land of Egypt, and why they spent 400 years there before God sent Moses to come and lead them out and give them the law. So we're on promise tonight. God had promised Abraham, he was Abram before he became Abraham, he'd make him the father of a great nation. He took him into the land of Canaan. We covered this last week. He took him into the land of Canaan, and there was a great famine there, so he left and went down to Egypt. When he went down to Egypt, then he was afraid that the king down there would kill him because Sarah was very beautiful, and he told her, said, "Now you lie and tell the king that you're my sister." So she did, and then God afflicted him, afflicted the king, and the king said, "Why have you done this to me?" Abraham was afraid because Sarah was so beautiful that he'd be killed. Now, as of yet, nothing was happening in Abraham's life. he had just been promised that he would become the father of a great nation. So from there he went back into the land of Canaan. He went back to the first altar that he had built. He went and built another altar, and he made sacrifice unto God. Now tonight in the 20th chapter, where we're going to pick up, Abraham, you would think, after him messing up lying the first time, that he wouldn't go back the second time and tell the exact same lie again. But he does. He just can't keep from lying. You would think the father of Israel, the father of a great nation, would be a man that wouldn't lie, don't you? If Abraham lied, how much more prone are we to lying? You ever tell one, 2 or 3, 4 or 5, told more than I can ever number. But thank God we have His mercy and blood and grace to forgive us and to cover us. So in the 20th chapter, we find him sojourning again, taking Sarah with him, and he goes in, and this is the king Abimelech, and he tells Sarah when he gets there, and he said, now you tell them that you are my sister, because I'm afraid of what they might do to me. So the king brings her into his palace, into his house, and there God let the king dream a dream. And in this dream, he knew that Sarah was Abraham's wife and that Abraham had lied to him. Well, Abraham was confronted by the king, and the king said, well, that wasn't almost a lie, said just a little bit of a lie. Now, how can you tell a little bit of a lie? It was his sister. Sarah was his sister. But Sarah was his wife. So he's going to choose between the two, and he chooses to tell just a little bit of a lie. They had the same daddy, but they had different mothers. And he was feared for his life. Have you ever told a white lie, or a black lie, or a right down bald face lie? Now what's the difference of it?
Yep.
But we like to categorize them, don't we? We'll criticize somebody else for telling a whopper, and we'll justify why we've told just a little. Talk to me, Margaret. Amen. I've lied before, haven't I? And you've lied before, haven't you? But we're past that now. I can use us because I know us. And we're probably the only people that have ever lied. So Abraham, he did that. And Abimelech said to him, why have you done this to me? And God said, well, I gave you this dream because I didn't want you to touch Sarah, but I wanted to expose Abraham. So when he left that place, he left with cattle and sheep. God blessed him. I don't know if we're telling a lie or not, but God blessed him. And then we find that Abraham, after many years after this, he had a son. In fact, he had 2 of them. The one was by an Egyptian woman, which was a bastard child. And then God gave him Isaac, which was the promised child. And Isaac was born, and after Isaac being born, over in the 22nd chapter, and Isaac is a young man, so God tells Abraham to go and take him up on the mountain and there to make a sacrifice. So he took 2 servants with him. He loaded the wood that he'd make an altar out of, and he took him to the place that God showed him, and he prepared the altar, and he stretched out Isaac upon the altar, and it says, Isaac said to him, said, Daddy, where is the sacrifice? And he says, God will provide. He drew the knife back. He would have thrust him through, but the angel of the Lord said, do him no harm. Don't hurt him in any way. And then it said that Abraham looked around, and there was a ram caught by his horns in the thicket. Now, have you ever heard the term scapegoat?
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. I've seen people used as a scapegoat. So this typifies Jesus Christ as being the offering for sin. Now the reason this happened is because God's showing us that man cannot die for man. A fleshly person that's born in sin cannot die for a fleshly person that's born in sin. That's why later on Jesus Christ became the sacrificial lamb. He was God made manifest in the flesh. He was the God-man. He was born of a virgin, but it was from the seed of God. And so this ram typifies Jesus Christ. He offered him up on the altar, and God was pleased with that. Now Isaac begins to grow, and he got to the age that he needed a wife. So God sent out one of his servants to go find him a wife. And he did. And what was his wife's name? Rebecca. And so the servant went, brought Rebecca back. It was getting close. Isaac was out in the field. And Isaac saw, and she loved him, and he loved her. Now, from these two people they had children, and they were twins, Esau and Jacob. Now, these two brothers, Esau was the oldest. In the Old Testament, the oldest child got the birthright and got the blessing of God. But Esau didn't think much of his birthright. He was a hunter. Isaac loved the meat that he could prepare for him. So, as time goes on, the younger of them, Jacob, was supposed to serve the eldest, Esau. But Esau sold his birthright. He didn't care anything for it. He sold his birthright to Jacob. And this is where you get Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now Jacob comes on the scene. This might be a little confusing, but it'll straighten out. And after he'd sold his birthright, Jacob comes on the scene, and he needs a wife. Can anybody tell me where he got it? All right. Can you tell me what his wife's name was? Jacob's wife.
Leah.
Leah? Is that all? Huh?
That's his first wife.
Rachel.
Right.
No. Is that right?
Supposed to be.
All right. Here you go. Needed a wife. Is that right? Was that the ones they was married to? Is he the one that went down and saw Rachel and loved her? And he told her daddy, said, I'll work 7 years for you. And I'll get her. He worked those 7 years. All right. And he went to get Rachel, and the daddy said, that ain't going to work. Leah's the oldest, and she's got to get married before I can give Rachel up, which is her younger sister. He said, you tricked me. He said, all right, I'll work another 7 years. Now, you talking about love, man. This is love. Man done give 7 years up for a woman that he had never been around. Now he's going to spend another 7 years. So, it's all set. He worked another 7 years, makes a total of 14 years of labor. You talking about paying for a wife. That's paying for a wife. So when he left, God blessed him and he left with riches. Now this gets marked. Here's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God promised Abraham that he's making the father of a great nation. Now we're up to Jacob. Now he's got him 2 wives. So Rachel, the one that he loved, couldn't have any children. Now he's in a mess. Here's the woman that you love and can't father children. But now the older sister, Leah, that his daddy said you got to work another 7 years to get Rachel, he went into her and she conceived, bare a son, conceived again, bare a son, conceived again, bare a son, conceived again, bare a son. Got them 4 children. Now, Rebecca, or Rachel, is standing off in the background and she gets a little blowjob and pooch-lipped. She said, I don't have any children, and that hurts me. Called Jacob over and said, hey, here's my handmaiden. You go in and you lay with her, and she'll have children, and I'll be able to be a blessing to you. So he was agreeable to it. He went in and fathered children. Now Leah's wound had dried up. And so she had seen what her sister did. She said, come here, big boy. I can't have any more kids, so I'm going to give you my handmaiden, and she can bless you and have more children. He was agreeable. Here it went again. Now there was 10 sons born of Jacob. 2 illegitimate by handmaidens, 1 by his wife, but the other wife that he loved hadn't had any children yet. Are you still with me? So it says that God remembered her. And he lay with her, and she conceived and bare a child and called his name
Benjamin.
Starts with the J.
Joseph.
Joseph! And it says that Jacob loved Joseph. Why did he love him? Because he was an old man when he had him. He said he's the apple of my eye. But now God ain't done yet. She gets pregnant again and bears a son, the last one, and his name is called Benjamin. All right, there are 12 kids that have been born from 4 different women by one man. God told Abraham that he would make him the father of a great nation, and it's starting here. Whew. There are 12 tribes of Israel. You say, well, that's not Jacob. Well, we find later on that God changes Jacob's name to Israel. Israel had 12 sons of 12 tribes of Israel, and here the Jewish nation gets started. Got started from one man. Now here's what God told him. Told Abraham, said, look at the sky. Said, count the stars. He said, I can't. Look at the sand at the seashore. Count it. I can't. He said, that's how many kindreds you're going to have. Starting out, one man. Now one man, 2 wives, 2 illegitimate children, or 2 illegitimate women that he doesn't marry to, had 12 sons. Now the Jewish nation's fixing to pick up speed. Things are starting to go on like you've never seen before. So Jacob had Joseph that he loved. Now Joseph had some other brothers. Had 11 other brothers. Oh yeah, Rachel, when she was having Benjamin, she died in childbirth. Made the 12 sons. Now Joseph was a little smart aleck. Did you ever think about that? Joseph, he had dreams. And he took his dreams and he flaunted them before his 11 brothers and before his father. First dream that he had, he told his brothers, he said, I dreamed that we was out in the grain field. and said we was binding sheaves. Well, I always thought sheaves was lambs, but it's not. They wasn't binding up lambs, it was grain like corn or fodder or something of that sort. And it said, in this dream I saw mine stand up on its back legs, and I saw yours fall down and bow down before it. Well, that ticked his brothers off, and they said, are you telling us that we are going to worship you? Well, he said he had another dream. What was that dream? Talk loud. I couldn't hear you. Gonna have to do louder than that. All right, I'll go on voice. I'm gonna get me a microphone that I can preach over and not have to holler. God said, or Joseph said, now boys, I've had me another dream. And this time he went in before his daddy. And he said, I had a dream, and I saw the sun, I saw the moon, and I saw 11 stars. And they were bowing down to me. For powerful stuff. This infuriated even his daddy. And the Bible said that the brothers hated him. They hated him. Why? Because he was next to the youngest, and his daddy loved him more, and they couldn't get respect because now he's telling. Now, in the midst of this, it says that their daddy loved him more, and he made him a coat of many colors. Now, I know you're thinking about Dolly Parton. She may have got it there, but her mother did not make the first coat of many colors. So Jacob made Joseph a coat of many colors. And his brothers went out in the field. And so he sent Joseph out with them. Now, you know when you got 11 brothers and you're the lippy one in the bunch, what's going to happen? They said, let's just do him in. I'm tired of his mouth anyway. So they found a place. They said, we'll kill him. Reuben said, no, we're not going to lay our hand on him. That was the oldest brother. We're not going to kill him. So they found a pit and they threw him in it and said, we'll just leave him down there and let him die. They stripped him of his coat of many colors. But while they were doing that, Reuben said, we don't need to do that. They saw a caravan coming. And they said, I'll tell you what, they're going down into Egypt. Let's get rid of him and let's get some money along with it. So they took and sold him. And they took his coat and they killed an animal and they put blood all over it. And they took it back to Jacob and said, look here, said he's out in the field and some wild animal got him and killed him. And Jacob realized and knew that was the coat that he had made him. Now his 11th son, the one that he loved so much, is dead. In the story? No. Beginning of story. And it says from there that Joseph went down into Egypt. But boy, this is getting good now. This is better than soap opera, isn't it? When Joseph gets down into Egypt, it said that the captain of the king's property, which a soldier, he took a liking to Joseph. He said, you know, that old boy's all right. I'm going to bring him in my house. Brought him in, put him in charge of everything that was there. But there was a problem. This old boy's name was Potiphar. And he had a sexy wife that had roaming eyes and an imagination and a heart that beat, that lusted, that wanted somebody else besides Potiphar. And I thought about that name. I don't know what kind of looking man that he was. But in my name, if you're named Potiphar, you must not be really sharp. I don't know that. But Joseph was a good-looking young man. So here comes Potiphar's wife. And she said, come here. He said, well, what do you want? She said, I want you to come in and lay with me. Joseph said, I'm not about to do that. Now to me, that tells me something about Joseph. He's got morals. He's got integrity, and he is a God-fearing man. Now here's the choice that he could have made. He was faced with doing something that was immoral, and nobody would find out about it except for God. And he would satisfy the lust of the flesh. But he refused. And this old gal didn't give up easy. She stayed after him. And Joseph said, I'm not doing it. I respect a man. I respect a man that will not fool around with his friend's partner. How about you? I respect a woman that will not fool around with her friend's partner. There's something that's said about that. Joseph could have, but he didn't. Not only did he respect God, but he respected Potiphar that had placed him in authority. Now comes the heat of the story. Potiphar wasn't there. Nobody was there. Joseph goes in and she tries him one more time. And now he lights a shuck. I mean, he's gone. He's got hat and he is leaving. But she reaches up and grabs him by his jacket. He runs out of his coat. Now, he didn't say a word to anybody. This old gal, she was conniving. She had been insulted. Her nerves tore all to pieces. Her lust not satisfied. And so she laid on the bed and called one of the soldiers in and said, this old boy came in and did wrong to me. He raped me. Potiphar said, all right, take him down and throw him into prison. Now this thing could have been solved before it ever got that far. He could have just went on and done what she wanted to do. Friends, sin you can never deal with without paying consequences. Why would God allow such a thing to happen to somebody that loved him? Because God had a plan on down the road, and he had to get him to this spot in order to get him on over here where he could use him.
Amen.
So now he's in prison. But it says God still loved him. And God took the man that was in charge of the prison, touched his heart, and you know, he said, oh, Joseph's a pretty good old boy. He put him in charge of the prisoners. Now from Potiphar's house down to prison, and things is looking up for Joseph. We're going to stop there. Pick it up next week. Abraham. Who's next? Isaac. Jacob. Joseph. Now Joseph's got a long way to go. He's got 11 brothers that didn't like him. He's got one daddy that thinks he's dead. Now he's in prison in Egypt, away from his family. But God has got a program. God has a plan. God's promised Abraham to make him the father of a great nation. And is he ever going to make him a great nation? Let's stand together.